What's going on? I hope everyone's having a wonderful day out there in the podcast world. You are listening to or watching the Service Business Mastery Podcast. I'm your host, Church Blissett, and I have my lovely co-host, Joshua Crouch, here sitting next to me virtually. Today, our show is going to talk about, Josh, and he's presenting us some information with Relentless Digital. If you don't know this, Josh's business, that is what he does full time. Is he has Relentless Digital. As many of you may think that this is what I do full time, podcasting and stuff. I know it comes across right, but no, that's not what I do full time. I have an HVAC company, and Josh has a digital marketing company, and so Josh is going to give us a little insight today on how to spy on competition and even your own digital marketing company. That this is one where, like, when I was a couple years ago, I was kind of like, how do they do what they're doing? Like, that was a question I always had. And then, like, I would listen to some shows and stuff, and it was like, okay, but that doesn't really tell me anything other than, like, I have to buy this expensive platform and this expensive program to figure this out. So I'm super excited, and I wish that I'd had this conversation about, I don't know, 6 years ago or something like that. But with that being said, welcome to the show, Josh.
Yeah, I mean, I was just happy that you called me lovely. I don't know if anyone's ever called me lovely in 36 years. So no, we as the post said, we had a different guest, and we got stood up. We're sitting at the table having coffee, and we got stood up. So we're having to change tunes a little bit, and I just happened to put out a video a couple of days ago that got some solid traction. And let's be real, I don't even think most contractors want to check in on their competition. I think they're more interested in checking in on their digital marketing company, because it's that. I mean, I've heard it called so many different things. Black magic. It just seems like nobody really knows what it is. So I try to, because I come from the contractor side, I try to level the playing field a little bit. And same thing goes, I mean, that video actually went out to all my clients too. So far, nobody's said anything back. So we'll see.
By the way, Josh,
I'm sure it's going to come. Someone's going to drop a comment.
No, it's one of those things where it's like, you want to trust them, and I know that I'm not the only person that's guilty of doing this, so I can say this freely, and that is, hey, look, our agreement is that I pay you $2,500 a month, so I'm going to write you a check, or you can swipe my credit card for $2,500 a month, and I don't want to deal with the rest of it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to have to check in on you, and I just want to hope. I hope that you're doing the right thing. And kind of like the ostrich sticking his head in the sand, and I've been guilty of it. And then, like, 2 or 3 months later, you're like, why did I pay, thousands and thousands of dollars, and I don't have any results?
Well, I saw somebody yesterday. And stuff like this now on my side makes me smile and chuckle a little bit. But they've hired and fired 5 companies this year alone, which tells me a lot. I mean, here's the thing: everybody wants results today, right? I mean, that's what everybody wants. If Google wasn't the behemoth they were and the success they were, maybe we could get results immediately. But there's method to the madness, whether you like it or hate it. And hopefully today, with some of these things that we talked about, you guys can at least have a better understanding of maybe why somebody's ranking ahead of you. Now, this isn't going to answer all your questions, but at least give you some insight as to maybe some things you can change on your own, or you can have an open conversation with your marketing company and just ask them some questions. Be like, hey, what about this? What about that? Why did you create that piece of content for me? Stuff like that. So that's the hope with this episode and the video that I created, which I did drop in the comments if anyone wants to check that out, because that's more of a over the shoulder type of video where you're going to actually be able to see my screen. There's links to the tools and stuff like that, so you guys can actually dive in. And the best part is these tools are all free. You can upgrade all of them, or at least some of them, but most of them are free. And I think the one Uber suggests was like $29 a month. It's nothing. So it's worth it.
So
yeah, I don't know where you want to get started.
What are those programs like? Like, we don't have to dive into what they each do.
There's a lot. Those
Yeah.
are just my favorite.
Okay.
I have like a ton of Chrome extensions. If you guys ever want to do some searching for different tools, if you go to like Google Chrome extensions and you type in one of these tools, just like everything on Google, Google's really good at suggesting other tools just like it that can do similar things. I found some of my best, honestly, most like efficient tools and stuff like that on there. But the tools that I mentioned in the video, one is GMB Crush. It's a tool designed to understand Google Maps results. So the Chrome extension ties into Google Maps. So when you do the search, you have to be looking from google.com/maps. And what will happen is you just press a button, it analyzes either the listing itself. So if you want to spy on a specific competitor, or if you do like a top 20 list, like that first page, it'll give you like some insights for all top 20, like their reviews. Do they have a physical location listed? How many posts have they made recently? How many posts in the last 90 days? Just stuff like that to give you a better insight of how active their profile is. It will also tell you, and this is probably the most important point, is what their primary category is on Google. This is one of like the big ranking factors on Google My Business, is the primary category. And I was just having this conversation with somebody who's a plumber and an HVAC contractor.
Yeah.
And we've been focusing on plumbing, and he wants to change. He wants to grow more on the HVAC side now. And the problem with, if your primary category is plumber, Google's going to look at that and give that more weight. So what you can do is, if you have multiple services or multiple trades, you can look at the categories listed, look at the top 20 list, see what the top 20, get an idea of how many are ranking ahead of you that have a different primary category. Like for you down south, air conditioning contractor may be the primary category. Up here, it's HVAC contractor. So there's different things like that, because there's probably about 8 different categories just for HVAC.
So can you change that from time to time? I mean, I know you can change it, but is it bad to change it too often?
It's something you definitely want to give some thought. Don't just go in there and start changing stuff.
Like every week, you shouldn't go in there like this.
Don't do that. If you change it too often, you'll risk suspension from Google. They do say that you can change it up to 3 times a year for like seasonality type businesses like HVAC, landscaping, stuff like that. So, and that's, so for those that are listening that maybe have dual trades, or maybe they have electrical as well, or they have roofing as a side company, you can change these things 3 times. So what I would suggest is, when HVAC is in the off season, change that to a different trade. So that way you can boost your rankings for that trade. And then when it's time to make hay, change it back to the air conditioning or heating contractor, whatever it is.
Yeah, Stacy on Facebook asked a great question. I was actually thinking the same thing. Should we do that? Should we have a GMB in each of our primaries? I feel like Google would frown upon that, but at the same time, if you're like explaining it to them, like, look, Google, it's the same name, but it's 3 different businesses, and we have the same service.
This is a great. This is a great question. And there's ways. So you have, again, this is why you have to talk with someone who understands this. You don't just want to go do it. So now, if you have a building that can be broken into different suites, you would have to have a listing that shows a different address. So like if you
A and Julie's office is suite B, and
so stuff like that you can certainly set up. So if you're in a industrial building, like a lot of contractors are generally like an industrial space. If you have maybe a side-by-side unit, you can have one of them. The problem is, if they have the same exact business name, you may want to get a DBA for that location if it's a plumbing company versus an HVAC. Which now again, we're getting like deep in the water here. You got now you have to think about branding. You have to think about all these other things that you're doing.
Yeah,
you may confuse some customers too. So that's why you can do it. It's just you really have to think about what you want and really think through that stuff. So it's a great question. It's something that is not easily answered without asking a bunch of follow-up questions. So Stacy, I hope that helps or not. So,
what about I mean, it's not bad to have multiple listings as long as you have multiple addresses. So if you actually have 3 different locations, then you can have 3 different listings. But they're not going to be tied together, correct? Like they're not going to have the same email address for login and stuff like that. They're going to be completely different, correct?
So you can send them to the same website. You have to have different phone numbers, different address. For the website, what I would do is whatever one's your primary business, I would send that to your homepage. And then for the other listings, I would send them to, like, let's take, for instance, the example of 3 listings in 3 completely different cities. I would have a city page or a location page as the primary page and make that look very similar to your homepage as far as call to action and just some of the things that a lot of homepages generally have, because that's speaking to that customer in city A versus city B versus city C. It's more relevant to them, which is probably, it's going to lead to more click-throughs, more calls, more leads.
What if they're in the same city? What if you have like a slightly larger city, maybe South Side listing, downtown listing?
You do run the risk. So I have a plumbing client. He had his initial GMB listing, then he moved. So we kept both listings, but they're in the same city. The one listing dominates. The other one hardly shows up at all.
The old listing, or the new listing?
The old listing doesn't really show up at all because that's not his primary location. That's not where we built all of his directories and stuff.
Okay.
But the other one does does really well. So most likely, if it's in the same city, Google's going to kind of filter that out, especially if it's the same name. They do try to make sure that you can't dominate the 3-pack results.
Yeah, I have noticed that because we have some competitors in our market that have multiple locations in the same city, but it's not technically the same city because it's in a township. And they're never listed together. Like there's never 2 of the same ones going at the same time. But the only way that you really notice it is because one of them might have 100 reviews and the other one might have 400 reviews and the other one might have like 1,000 reviews. And so you just like, wait a minute, you had 1,000 reviews yesterday. Why do you have 100 reviews today? Like what the heck happened there? But that's what it is.
Yeah. You just have to be careful. I mean, there's a growing trend, especially with the way Google My Business is set up right now, to add a physical location, more of a like smaller office somewhere, like a satellite office, set up a listing. And for those listening or watching this later, I would make sure you have enough market share where you are first and then start considering this, because it is a very viable way to grow. And the cost to what you get is very low. Your ROI is going to be very good overall. Instead of like trying to run pay-per-click or Facebook ads in a certain community, you're going to get a lot more bang for your buck opening a new listing and paying $300 a month for rent for some office space that kind of just sits there.
So, well, tell me this: what happens if your current listings in like bum BFE out there, and you don't really have like maybe there's 5,000 people who live where your current listing is, but and you're not quote unquote dominating it, but if you had your other listing in like a metropolitan area that's 45 minutes or an hour away, you potentially have a lot more easy low-hanging fruit as far as client base. I mean, would you agree with that?
So it's interesting. The small towns are actually great for Google My Business. because there's a few things. Think about it from this perspective. There's a lot less competition. And if you think about it, if you're in a suburb, right, like I would pick anywhere from 5,000 might be a little light, but if you had like 10, 15,000, maybe the town overhead another 7 to 10, and a couple of the neighboring towns. So within a 10-minute drive, you have maybe 3 towns, and you have a 30 to 40,000 people that it could hit. That's what we did, and I mean, completely dominating the entire area. And that's where they get a lot of their leads from. But here's the thing. Now they're at the point where a second location is necessary or paid ads. Because here's the thing with any marketing, and this is totally not on topic today. This is more of like a general thing for people. No one marketing method is going to solve all of your problems. I'm just gonna, and I'm gonna repeat that because people think like if I do this, my business is gonna grow.
Oh yeah.
No one marketing method, like SEO. I'm not talking one company. I'm talking SEO, pay-per-click, Facebook, radio, TV, direct mail, email. No one method is going to completely grow your business by itself. It will grow it, but you do have to have a mix, and you have to be doing things internally too. Especially now,
they can't pay you $2,000 and then be like, that's your problem, not mine.
Well, look, there's packages that I can do all that stuff, right? But it's one of those things you have to understand, like SEO itself or PPC itself or Facebook ads itself is not going to, regardless of what anyone promises you, it's not going to grow your business 10x or 20x by itself. You have to have other things in place. You have to be able to convert. You have to be able to convert on the phone, in-house. Like I have these conversations all the time. People
like $500 to get basically,
and then
your people just don't answer the phone or send them to voicemail, or your answering service, like, we're busy. Let's send the answering service, and the answering service sucks.
And that's exactly what happens is they focus on more leads, but they don't realize that, well, if I took my call booking rate from 70% to 75 or 80%, if I just did that with my average ticket cost, what does that mean numbers wise? Or let's say I bumped it up to 75, 80% call booking. Now my conversion rate with my text goes up 5%, or my average ticket goes up $25 or $50. Like it is an ecosystem that has to work together. And I think it's almost like you hire a marketing company, you want leads, but you suck at call booking, or you suck at conversion, or you suck at sales, and like your scale is just totally tipped in one way or the other. You either can't handle what you have, or you can't sell what you do get. And you blame the marketing company, or you blame somebody else, and don't realize like, hey, George,
you have to really convert on those. And it's one of those things that's like, it's a hard pill to swallow. Like, we can blame the marketing company and say, look, man, I spent, $12,000 over the past 6 months, and I haven't made $12,000 from the call tracking. Like, you even put in phone numbers to track these calls that are coming in from the marketing agency, and I haven't made $12,000 back. But then if you listen to those phone calls, and that's one of the things that I really think that's extremely important and I take for granted, because 2014 when I started TriStar, we didn't have call recording and call tracking numbers. And so it was a lot of like me listening over the shoulder of the dispatcher or the CSR. And now we have, like, every single phone call that comes in is tracked, and now marketing is tracked. And it's so automated that I take a lot of that stuff for granted. But you got to listen to those conversations. When you go back and listen to it, and it's like, oh man, like that, I can see why they didn't convert. And it's one of those things, like if you're using Service Titan, I happen to be using Service Titan, and the CSR has the ability to mark what type of call it was, like if it was a non-bookable job, that type of stuff. And because they're go back and listen to those, because there's sometimes whenever
you'll learn a lot.
oh yeah, as non-bookable, quote unquote non-bookable, using air quotes there, when in fact it was just, you didn't even ask questions. They were like, how much you charge to come out and take a look at the unit? Oh, it's $85 or $89. Okay, click.
So
Like,
that is a great point. I actually have a story, and then I'll get to George's question because I know I have a little bit more back end insight to George's question. But so I have a client who was struggling, and it's, look, there's certain times of growth, right? There's the single man owner operator, you do everything, and then there's the next stage of growth is getting some help. And then the next stage of that is having enough help so you can step back from the field. Like he's stuck in that middle one right now. And I was listening to some of his phone calls, and what you just said, they were literally saying that the service fee was X amount,
yeah,
and that doesn't include the cost of repair. And that's all they said.
yeah.
And I'm like, oh God, I'm scratching my head. I just literally like face palmed and did I immediately texted him. I'm like, dude, we got to talk to, and this was an answering service. So again, you're only going to get so much out of them, but we need to talk. Like this is, they're literally the customer then is left standing. Well, it's almost like an FU thing, right? Like, oh, yeah. Well, screw you. Like, why would I hire you? I'll just hire someone else.
Yeah. We're too busy to show any.
That's exactly what it sounded like.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, and there's no value, right?
It's cringeworthy. It's like, I don't even want to listen to any more calls. They're going to be like this.
And there's no value. Like, what do I get for the $89? You're just going to show up and charge me $89? Like, that sucks. So there's a lot of things you can do. This is checking up on your own internal systems. George's question is probably going to get us back on to what we started talking about. So it's funny, George. I've had other people do my marketing in the past, to varying degrees, and some's been okay.
You do George
as long as yeah, I do. He had someone else prior to me. That's where his question comes from.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, like if George, if you use Josh now, no, I probably wouldn't trust the outside person to do marketing. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding.
So here's the thing, George. Like, you have to. Let me turn the question around on someone like yourself. So I think everybody that listens to the show now knows I'm not handy. And if Brittany's listening, she'll probably comment in that I'm not a handy guy. Like, you don't want me to fix an air conditioner. So would you trust somebody else? Would you trust somebody else to fix your air conditioner would really be the question I would ask you. And the answer probably would be the same, right? Like, you were the best person for that job. Just like and I get it, right? Marketing companies, it is completely the Wild West. There are no set standards. It is worse than contracting, like by far. Yes. And I thought contracting was pretty bad, right, because of some of the stuff we'd run into. Some of these guys that like they're ripping stuff out and then saying, "Oh, the unit doesn't work." I just saw a story the other day in the Service Avengers group about that. But this is where it really comes down to.
Well, with my experience with marketing companies, I was on YouTube and I was just like watching YouTube videos. I was in that rabbit hole and I was like, I just happened to stumble across this one company and I was like, man, like they legit, like this is a good production. Like this is a really good production video. And they were a marketing company. And I was like, I'm going to hire that company to do my stuff. And I was so busy with the working in the business that I went a solid 8 months without realizing that the $2,500 I was spending every month, all of it was going into PPC, and majority of it was against my own name in PPC. Nothing was going in SEO. It was horrendous. And the stuff that I was promised, I was totally a number. I mean, I was given an account manager. See, the sales guy was great, answered all my questions, did all kinds of great stuff. But as soon as I went into to do as soon as my account manager took over, it was a nice person, but he was only allotted like an hour a month towards my website design and stuff. And so it was like, I was asked some questions, and it was stuff that I know how to do Photoshop. I can do Premiere Pro. And they were like, oh yeah, for us to change that page, and I know how to do WordPress, and it's going to be 3 hours to do, and you only have an hour a month, so you have to get 3 months built up. And I'm like, no, it's like 15 minutes. I can do it for, like, why am I paying you to do this? Like, I just wanted to send an email and say, hey, fix this, and blah blah blah. And it was so bad, and I spent so much money and got zero results back from it. But it was a large marketing company, and I was just so disappointed with it. And that was whenever I kind of got jaded with the whole situation, because prior to that, I had built the website for TriStar, and so I knew what was involved in building a WordPress website that ranked very well.
Sure.
So it just really irritated me.
Yeah, and I was talking to a garage door company yesterday, and they're in the market for a marketing company, and they said the same thing. The current company they're with, they would find mistakes, send it to the company, and the company would rebuild them those like 0.2, almost like a lawyer, right? Like 0.25 or 0.33 hours. And she's like, wait, I found your mistake and you're billing me for it.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. Think about, again, and this is why I guess I have a little different perspective. Because of the contracting world, we do flat rate, right? We make sure the customer's happy. This is our price, whatever it takes to make the customer happy with that package or that service. And that is essentially how I run my stuff. Now, there's months I'm losing money on the packages that I'm doing because I'm putting in extra work to make sure clients getting results. And I would highly recommend, if you're looking at a company, make sure they don't charge by the hour. I think that's an old school way of doing things. Charge by results, charge by a package and tasks that they're doing for you, and ask them if we have problems, or we want to do something extra, or we want to change the plan for the content that's coming up. Will it be a problem? Will you charge me extra for that? Because marketing is flexible, just like anything else, right? It can change, and it should change. And your business changes. I have a company that wants to get more into the commercial end of things, and they asked me what it would take to. I said, well, we'll just queue it up for next month. We'll just change the plan, and it should be flexible. But I want to get back to George's question. Because we actually, and this is me owning up to a mistake. We made a mistake on one of his GMB posts this morning, and he caught it. But another thing I would make sure, and it was the name of the city that we posted on there. And don't get me wrong, every marketing company makes mistakes, just like every service company. But it's one of those things that, do they own up to it? Do they say, yeah, we made a mistake, I'm going to fix it right now, and get someone to jump on it? And this is why these tools and knowing enough, like GMB Crush, Uber Suggest. Uber Suggest is a great one for your website, because it'll tell you your rankings. It'll tell you, like, do I have big problems on my site, like titles, tags, descriptions, stuff like that. And that's the stuff that your marketing company should be doing for you if they're doing any sort of SEO. Other tools out there, they're just to make sure that you have a way to double check what they're telling you. And how that conversation should go when you would come to your marketing companies, let them know that, hey, I was checking this out. What's going on with this? See what they reply with. And that really tells you if you have a relationship that's worthy of your trust or not. Yeah. Because how they answer, just like when you have a customer that's pissed off because your text did something wrong, or they brought mud into the house, if you respond and go on the offensive, they're probably going to write you a bad review. Yeah, like, you have to understand the situation and I'm going to take care of that for you. I'm going to make it right. And if they try to be defensive and blame this, that, or the other thing, then you probably don't have a trustworthy company that's really going to have your back.
Yeah, if they try to go on defense immediately, like trying to pass the buck is what I like to say. Start passing the buck off to somebody else, and I'm like, start throwing up red flags for sure.
Yeah,
but when you
so it's a great question, like, George.
Yeah, good stuff, George. I appreciate the question. But you did mention that there's service companies out there that make mistakes, and I don't know those service companies. That's totally not us. We don't make mistakes.
Never.
No, I'm kidding. Mike mentioned previously, like early on in the conversation, we were talking about the conversation of your CSR or call center, if you're using call center versus a CSR. Whenever they're talking about the diagnostic fee or consultation fee. And Mike mentioned a good point, and he said that the service call is free with the recommended repair, which is like the verbiage, totally like the verbiage. Be careful with the verbiage. I've seen people advertise that the service call is free, and then in small print it says with recommended repair, and that got them in some hot water. But I love the idea of just basically, I mean, it's nothing's free in life. And so hopefully people realize that somebody is covering that expense somewhere. But for me,
Exactly.
the service technician or the service expert, sometimes they see the $89 or $95 and they're like, hey, at least we got $95. But then if they don't realize it, they don't realize the fact that it might cost $250 to pull in that driveway. So if you only collected the diagnostic only, you're losing money. You're paying that person to come pull up in their driveway. And a lot of technicians, unless you really share a lot of detail with them and educate them, they may think, look, man, I'm getting paid 20, 30, 40 bucks an hour. You're collecting 95 bucks. We're coming out fat on this end. And then it's like, no, once you've actually done the exercise and see how much it actually costs to roll that truck to that driveway, it may change your mindset there for sure. But real quick, we don't get anything from this, but Brigham Dickinson, been on the show a couple of times, and a couple of his people have been on our show, and they have Power Selling Pros. We use them personally. So like this book here, I don't know what it cost on Amazon. It cost me about $2,500 though. So the training in for free. No, I'm just kidding. But they train your CSR on that conversation and showing the empathy and everything. So I highly recommend them if you do have any questions or concerns about your CSR answering the phone.
Yeah, and I actually want to add a point too. And we do this, we get off topic, but this is a great topic as well. Like, yeah. So what I told that contractor that was with the fee, I told, because he was calling me because it was slowing down. I said, it doesn't have to be the same every day. That's a lever, right? Like if you can't book a call or you guys are almost dead, no fee service call with the repair, right? Like fill the schedule. It doesn't need to be the same every day. If you're slam busy, yeah, it's $89 or it's $150 or whatever it is. Like you have to have these levers in your business to manage the expectation. Once you get big enough and you have a big enough customer list, people will wait for you. They really will. Once they know that you're a good company, they'll wait for you a little bit longer than they will if you're small and they don't know you. But if you have these levers in your business, then it's one of those things that you're going to struggle because you're not going to be able to adjust accordingly or plan ahead.
For those of you whose head did not explode, maybe
Thanks, George.
Here, Josh. But it's like he's so true because up until a couple of years ago, I never even thought about doing this. Like I didn't really think of the fact that just because your diagnostic fee or your consultation fee or your trip fee has been a certain amount for 10 years doesn't mean it can't change. Like I hate hearing, well, that's what I've always charged, or that's what the competitors are charging. Like, why though? Like if you're not getting calls, like if your call board is not booked for the next day or two, like don't charge anything for getting out there. I mean, legit get your service
in the home
house. Yeah. Because that's the whole job, is to get them in the house. Why would you let that become a barrier for entry, like a resistance to the homeowner if you're struggling for calls? legit no service call fee or a $20 service call fee. Obviously, I understand having skin in the game, because that's something you have to be careful of. If you advertise that you legit have no service call fee, you may get people who are just worthless people, and they're just going to use your time up. But if your technicians understand, hey, look, man, you can't leave this house without a lead, or your ticket's got to be $250 because that's what it costs us to get in the door. Just because it's free, like we're advertising free, doesn't mean like it can be free on every single call. And then if you're seeing a trend of, oh, well, there was nothing wrong, I would be doing a ride along with that technician really soon, because there's a slight chance that either they're doing a bad diagnostic or they're taking cash from the people. So just another.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
The thing. But yeah, George is right, though. For those who are not using Josh, you're seriously missing the boat. He said that his GMB has skyrocketed, something that he wasn't even aware of. A lot of contractors aren't aware of GMB. So
yeah, and actually I have some ideas for new video stuff, but like a full, like, ultimate guide to GMB for contractors, because a lot of times you see this stuff and there's videos out there about that stuff, but it's real general. And I think contractors have some specific things that really need to be focused on. And if you want to set up yourself, that's great. Like, it's just like anything else, right? Like, it's okay for people to set this stuff up themselves. Like, back to George's question, if you don't want to trust anyone else with your marketing, I'm self-taught. I've been teaching myself for years now, but I'm self-taught. Like, I didn't go to school for it. So you can teach yourself. Just be aware that you're going to get down some rabbit holes. Like, Tersh, you get down some really deep rabbit, but it's good information. Like, if you want to do that and you have time to do that, or you just you get into it and you're interested in it, I can absolutely point out some great resources. Like, Neil Patel is one of the best resources around, that dude. And what's great about his shows and stuff, they're like 5 minutes long. His podcasts are like 5 minutes long. They're like one topic a piece. They hit the topic, they move on to the next show. It's awesome. And he has that tool, Uber Suggests, which I've mentioned. I think you get one website for free. So you can put your website in there. You'll understand, is my company doing these things? Is this content ranking? Where do I rank? It's a great tool.
Is that a Chrome plugin?
He has a Chrome extension, but it's actually, if you go to ubersuggest.com, it's spelled like the car company Uber, suggest.com. And then that'll redirect, and he'll probably want to get your email. He's really good at email marketing too, but the stuff he puts out is really good, like legit good. He's got some beginner SEO stuff. He's got more advanced stuff out there, so you can actually understand what some of this terminology is. So it's not like eyes are crossed and you're like, what the hell is he talking about?
Oh yeah. Because there's nothing worse than getting a report from your SEO company, and it's like, this is a great report, but here's the thing, like, I don't understand what any of it means. Like, you literally could be fluffing all the numbers, because you're telling me cost per click, cost per impression, ROI this, and then impression over here, and bounce rate. And like, one of the biggest things that I have taken away from I use CEO Warrior and I have for several years now, and one of the biggest things that I've really taken away from them is, like, you don't have to be the one who does the work, but you need to be the one. You need to be able to understand what's going on whenever you're talking to the people who are doing the work, because
so you don't get BS'd.
Yeah, that 100%. But then you can hold them accountable. You can hold your company accountable, your marketing company accountable, if you know what they're actually talking about, or if you can tell that they're trying to blow smoke on you, up your butt, whatever. But that's one of the biggest things for me, is like my time is extremely valuable. So for me to pay someone, I definitely would pay someone to do work, especially if I could pay somebody $100 an hour whenever I charge $250 an hour, like it just makes sense to pay someone else to do that. I mean, granted, whenever you see that bill, it's like, woof, that's a lot of money per hour. But if you're sitting there learning it, how many hours are you spending doing that? Is one of the things that you really have to pay close attention to.
Well, think about all the stuff we talked about in this 40-minute call or 40-minute session here. We've talked about your call booking, making sure that's right, your conversion on the text, training the text, marketing. Like, this is just in 40 minutes. We could go on and on and on about all the things. That's why it is important. And again, I get it. Trying to hire, you don't know what to believe. Trying to hire a marketing company, trying to hire an answering service, trying to hire people internally. Like, it sucks. It's hard.
Companies that are really good at marketing themselves.
Oh yeah.
But then they are horrible at the follow-up process, you know?
Yeah. And it's one of those things that you should be able to get a feel within the first 2 to 3 months, right? Like you should know, like your gut should be telling you, like, what the hell are they doing? I haven't really heard from them after I signed the contract. Now, again, and it's different for everybody, right? Like, some people like to have calls. Some people just want updates. Like, the best thing that anyone can do, and if there's marketing companies, I know I got quite a few marketing contacts. If you guys are looking to make your reports better, make it geared with the contractor in mind. They don't give a shit about impressions. They don't. Now, have it on the report, but don't highlight it. They don't care. There's probably a few things they want to see. They love the Google Maps stuff. If you have not found a tool yet, find one, because they love seeing their Google Maps rankings. They love seeing calls. If you're not doing call tracking, you should be doing call tracking, or at least integrating with that company's call tracking solution, because this is stuff that people really want to see, and it delivers such valuable insights to their business. It helps them grow. It helps them get better. And that's really what a marketing company, you should be like Buzz talked about, almost like an extension or an arm of that company. And if you're not, if you're just kind of like a plug-in and you can be replaced really easily, guess what? You're going to get replaced really easily. So
well, that's one of the things that whenever I had Stephen Christopher on the show, that's one of the things that we've talked about constantly, was the fact that, like, they need to be an employee of your business, like not necessarily a W-2 employee, but like they need to be so intricate in the relationship. And when you're thinking about doing a new marketing thing, like, you instantly think, hey, let me reach out to Relentless Digital and see if this makes sense, because you could be spending a lot of time and spinning your wheels on something that just doesn't make sense, because they've done it, or they're actively doing it, and they can show you results on how it's just working for other people. But you need to have that constant communication with them.
And here's the thing, and this goes for contracting too. And I know there's a lot of really great sales coaches out there, and the best sales coaches are the ones that teach you not to hard sell. It's educate. Like, whoever you're talking to about marketing, they should be trying to educate you at least a little bit, at least teach you some basics. Like, I did this thing because of this thing. Or if you're talking to someone and you're deciding who to choose, they should be giving you helpful insights on your website, on your GMB listing, on your just overall presence online. Like, just in case you do want to do it yourself, or you want to go back to the company that you're working with because you really like your rep or you really like the owner, they should be giving you some advice first. Like, they should be giving you something before you write a check. If they're not giving you anything, they're just be like, yeah, sign up here, we'll take care of it. You should probably just be a little leery of that and make sure that you have someone that's actually got your back. Yeah. And I know it's a difficult thing to find, but have someone that has your back. And it doesn't have to be me. Like, if you want opinions from the companies I know that are good, message me anytime. Even if it's not me, I'll probably try to earn your business. But there are other really good dudes out there, really good contractors. And I say dudes because everyone I know is a guy. But there's some females out there I don't know that I know are highly sought after as well. So you mentioned
two tools here. What's that third tool that you
Let me look at my Chrome extensions quick here. I have
So
so many.
do you use SEM Rush? Because I mean, that's one that was one of my go-tos back in the day. I felt like they always upsold me though. But
So
I did get
SEM
a lot
Rush,
of information from them.
SEM Rush is publicly traded now.
Oh,
So they have to make money for investors. So they
okay.
do have a lot of upsells. However, I think they do have some, I think they only offer like a free trial, and it's very limited. Like you can only do like 5 different searches or 10 different searches a day. That's why I didn't include them in the video. Now we use them, but I use them for more of my internal insights.
Mhm.
But as far, the other one was SEO Minion, which is actually, it's a really cool tool for, and again, I'm not going to get deep in the weeds on like titles, tags, descriptions on your site, because this is like a whole different topic that needs more explanation. But it tells you if they're doing this stuff. Like I just found a website yesterday that someone I was talking to, and I was going through it. I'm like, every single service page you have is literally the title, tag, and description is like the same exact thing. They're targeting the same keyword on different pages. Think about that from Google's perspective. How do you think they're going to rank your page? They're
Right.
not. So this is a tool that really helps you understand, okay, if this is an air conditioning repair page or a drain cleaning page, are they targeting the right keywords and filling out these other things that Google needs to see? That's really what it's for. So SEO Minion, that's a Chrome extension. It's also free. And then GMB Spy is another one that's really good with, it does a lot of the same things GMB Crush does. And there's more, don't get me wrong, there's a lot more, but those are the ones that I use pretty regularly.
Have you ever used or heard of SEO Quake?
I've heard of it.
Yeah, so I used it a long time ago. I haven't used it recently because it can actually be very annoying. But it's a plugin as well, a Chrome extension. But every time you go on a page, it tells you the strengths and it gives you all the stats at the top of the page. So it slows down your loading of pages, and it also like kicks the page down a little bit more, so like you can't see as much of the page.
You just reminded me of something else. So GT Metrics, and it's metrix.com, because page speed is, now granted, you could go to Google Page Speed Insights too. The problem is Google Page Speed Insights only gives you speed. It doesn't give you performance, and performance, and it's a little bit easier to understand how to fix it. Like so for you guys listening that have Schedule Engine, it's going to slow your site down. It's a great tool. It's a great add-on, but you can change the code on there to do like a little bit
information, because I think
I can send it to you.
I had that issue with mine, and then we were just like, we got to fix this because like we're moving from an A to a B only because of these things that are slowing down this page.
And that's, so now I have a paid subscription because we have a number of clients on it, but we run weekly reports for performance. And if we get alerts, if anyone drops below a certain grade, we automatically start looking into it. But I was helping this client out, and he's like, man, my site's slow. And so I looked at it, and it was literally, it literally brought his score from like a 70 to like an 85 or something like that. I don't remember the exact numbers, but just that one little change. And there's other things we can do to enhance that. So that way, again, you're giving Google what they want, and it's a free tool. You can scan that. You can scan your competitors' websites on there too. So it's something that it gives you a nice PDF report that you can send to your marketing company. You can send it to your internal marketing person or whoever does that for you and be like, hey, what can we do to fix this? It just helps you be on top of your game, so that way you don't get taken advantage of.
Yeah, no, I think this is a lot of good stuff. I mean, it's one of those things where we can dive deep into the weeds on this, and I have no problem doing that because, and obviously there's people who are still alive with us that are also very interested in watching that information. if you want to learn more about this stuff, Josh is obviously the guy to go to. What's the best way for them to reach out to you, Josh?
Most people reach out to me initially through Facebook. You can do it through if you're in the service, most of you guys should probably be in the Service Business Mastery podcast page, but if you're not, plug in, add that page, because we do talk about different topics like this. Like we talked about, I put a post up yesterday about e-commerce for the trades. So we talk about some different things that really go into little different dives, and maybe some of the best practice groups. We're talking about more operations. We're talking about like things outside of that, maybe some things to consider, stuff like that. So we talked about COVID and whether that should be something that you talk about with your people, not talk about. Should you mandate? Should you not? I mean, there's just some topics that really need to be answered and really need to start considering, because there's entire cities and states mandating stuff. So it's something to think about. And we have some really good, I was just looking at Pete's comment. Pete's always got something interesting to say. But
yeah, we have always great stuff in the group. If you're not in the Facebook group, just join that group, and I'll actually add a link here to the group here in a second. Josh, you want to address Pete? What he
mentioned? I think he's worried about when I grow, the results will crash, but that won't happen. It won't happen, Pete.
Oh, yours as you grow the business?
Yeah, it won't.
I mean, this is a legitimate concern. I mean, we've seen that before. I mean, with anything, we've seen different CRMs as they grew, certain areas would struggle, and then they recognized it and then turned around and got it fixed. But yeah, it's definitely a legitimate concern, and it's the fact that you recognize that beforehand is great, Josh.
Yeah, like here's the thing. I take a lot of stuff, especially if it's something that we're not doing well personally. It's just who I am. Like I take it personally, and if something's bugging me, like we're not getting results on something, it will literally be my sole focus. And it's just who I am personally. It's not a sales pitch. It's just who I am. So, and it was the same way in the HVAC industry or companies that I was with. And that's why we always, when we had problems, we fixed them and we grew and we figured out ways to sustain that. Now, I mean, there's obviously different challenges along the way, just like when you grow to get out of the field. You got to have enough people in the field that can take care of your customers and keep the level of quality. It's the same concept. It's just a little different, a little more unique, because you have to find people that care. I mean, that's the biggest thing. You may not find like the absolute greatest PPC guy, but if they care and they're willing to learn, that is almost more important. Just like a technician, they don't need to necessarily know everything, but they have to care and they have to want to learn.
Yeah, 100%. What do you think about, and this is the last question that I'll ask you, what do you think about the thought of one person or one company being able to do GMP, PPC, LSA, which we didn't even talk about LSA today, and SEO, and billboards, and like all of it, like an all-in-one. I mean, to me, like an all-in-one stop, it seems like a no-brainer. Like that's just like, oh yeah, that's good. I can do that.
So
one person to do it all.
I know that's what contractors want. I would love to.
I agree. Yes, that is what we want.
Don't get me wrong. Like ultimately, that's probably every marketing company's dream, is to be able to do that and do it well. My problem with that is it has to be slow. Like if you try to bite off more than you can chew and you spread yourself too thin, it can really hurt different areas of your business that you're actually strong in. And like anything, right? Like before you add plumbing to HVAC, you should be really, really damn good at HVAC and have really good sales to be able to focus solely like on your plumbing department. And it's something I've struggled with because I've had a lot of people ask me for a lot of different things, and I want to help everybody on all of these things. I've gotten better at saying no because I don't want them to spend money with me that is wasted or is on a test. And if I test it, they're probably not going to pay me anything for it until I make sure they get results, because I don't want to be liable to be like, hey, I spent another $1,000 a month with you and you didn't give me anything.
Yeah.
But the jack of all trades things, I would say I would try to find somebody that's really good at certain things that you really want to grow with first.
Mm-hmm.
Then once you trust them, then see if they want to add something on, or maybe a recommendation based on someone they because marketing companies all know each other. Like I talk to all the people you guys know, and they know people who are killing it in certain areas that maybe they're not. Like I don't touch Facebook ads, and I know people who are doing okay in Facebook, different animal, but I know people that are doing okay, and I can give you a recommendation so you can kind of weed out some of the crap, so that way you can kind of save some time.
Yeah, I mean, we have some good friends of ours who are, I mean, they kill it with Facebook, and I'll ask a question and they're like, oh yeah, this is it, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, what?
They speak the language.
Yeah, like I don't understand that at all. What you just said makes no sense to me. But yeah, I agree with you there 100%. Cool, bud. Thank you for sharing all this. And also, don't forget, Josh shared the link earlier to the actual video that he did. It's slightly less than the 55 minutes that we've been on here, but it's a little shorter video, but it's some great information. And we could talk for hours literally on stuff like this. But George has one last question.
George wanted to make sure we hit an hour.
Oh yeah.
George, you have this during your website build. This has to be something that you share. So here's the thing, real quick. Your marketing company should be asking you for your reasons to be in business. What makes you different? And if you don't have answers to that, they should at least have some idea on some things that are working for other people that maybe you should consider. But you really should have some sort of branded message, especially on the homepage. Like some of the service pages and stuff, most people aren't really going to read that entire page. That's more for SEO and to get leads. Your homepage is really where they're going to land most of the time. And that's where you need to have branded images. Please don't use stock photos. If anyone's listening, do not have stock photos on your homepage. It literally drives me crazy because I've seen all the stock photos.
On my stock.
You have a nice truck on yours, so at least you have that as your hero image. But I see hero image. I saw one yesterday. The hero images of like 2 non-branded AC units. I'm like, this tells that person nothing. Like, be the hero of your story. And this will be a plug for, I know Tersh, you're actually the one that resent me that link, but look into StoryBrand. George, if you go to storybrand.com, they're going to send you 3 videos, and maybe I'll even try to get those over to you. And they're going to tell you what should be on your website. And their information is gold. It's really good. We're actually taking a course with them next month, I think, a paid course for a deeper dive into that stuff because it's such good information. So, but it's stuff you should think about before you hire someone to build a website for you.
Yeah, that grunt test is crazy. After listening to Donald Miller's entire thought process, it's like, oh wow, there's a lot of really bad websites out there.
Let me see if I can get the link on here real quick and drop it in.
Their main page there.
Oh, you got it. Okay. Yeah, I would go there. There's some kind of a lead funnel that they have, but they'll send you a series of videos they're really the second. Is this the second or the third one? Which is specifically about like 5 things that you should have on your website. Those are really, really, really good. And I would highly recommend watching those. Yeah.
Cool, bud. There's tons of information in this. So if you're just tuning in with us, go back and watch the whole thing. We'll be sure to upload it as soon as we get finished here. But with that being said, thank you so much for sharing again, Josh.
Absolutely. This was I'm glad we figured something out to do for the show this morning.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Pivot. Always be ready to pivot. So 100%. Cool. Anybody that's watching this has any questions about anything, if you're not in the Facebook group, join the Facebook group. We, obviously answer questions there. Reach out to Josh or myself. With that being said, thank you again for listening to this episode of the Service Business Mastery Podcast. This is a podcast focused on service business owners, managers, and technicians who are considering becoming business owners themselves. Our target with this show is to help answer some unasked questions, and I hope that we did that today. Until we talk again next time, hope you have a wonderful and safe week. We'll see you.
See you guys.